So it's happening, guys. It's happening. You've been waiting. I've been waiting. He, she, they have been waiting. Everybody's been waiting. And it's happening. There are updates being pushed to certain branches within the back end of a particular game on Steam. What game? Well, first of all, what are these? Sony QAE shipping, PM test. What could this possibly be for? Well, they are changes to the game, quote unquote, of Concord on Steam. Changes being made. As I tweeted out, so Concord is still getting updates through Steam on the back end. These aren't tiny updates either. It looks like they're actually making changes to a bunch of different branches. I think this all but confirms they're going to try relaunching it, probably free to play. And as Actman replied, cannot wait for Concord to re-Concord. It looks like they are actually going to try a full relaunch and just go free to play. Looks like that's what they're doing. A lot of these changes, so as you can see, over the last few weeks, there have been multiple daily updates to the game on Steam. Since October 6th, the game has seen 20 updates by various users. So to be clear, it's not just like one developer tweaking stuff. It is members of their team, and they're changing stuff in PM test, Sony QAE shipping, Sony QAE. It's unknown what the updates are exactly, but there are rumors that the game could be looking at a re-release as a free-to-play title. And then they go through all of that. The game director stepped down, of course, if you don't remember that, which, I mean, respect. I don't know how you settle the ideas that led to Concord with its final performance without having to take some responsibility. I mean, as you can see, the quote that was handed to Kotaku, he said, quote, Ryan deeply believed in that project and bringing players together through joy in it, said one former developer who said he felt Ellis had poured a great deal of himself into Concord, leading to a ton of stress. Regardless of there being things that could have been done differently throughout development, he's a good human and full of heart. And I think that that is absolutely true. Like, nobody should be targeting individual developers. Nobody should be targeting individual people. That doesn't mean that we coddle it or pretend that Concord was some great game. It just means these are people that worked on this for ages. Should they have? In my opinion, no. I think if you had told anybody 5 years ago that you were spending close to a decade working on a 5v5 hero shooter that was going to be a premium product and was going to have like 3 game modes at launch, like, I think anybody would have told you that's not going to work. It's just not going to work. So I think that this is more of a managerial issue. You know, the devs put their all into it, but it never should have been greenlit and picked up by Sony, in my opinion. I think that was ridiculous. I know some people are like, oh, well, there's a couple of instances. Like, there was that one developer who called, I think it was for this game, they called some members of the community talentless hacks, people who didn't like the game and were making videos that were negative towards it, which is fine. I mean, it's whatever. They're free to have their opinion, but I would be hesitant to make too much of that. Like, if we're going to be consistent, I don't think it's fair to make a big deal out of individual statements from developers that worked on Black Myth Wukong. Some of the devs said some pretty crude things about women, for example, in their private social media. Do I think that means the whole game deserves to be shut down? No, because it's one developer. Like, I don't see how that follows. In the same vein, one developer on Concord saying stupid stuff when they have heightened emotions because the game that they worked on for so long is flopping. I don't think that is necessarily indicative of an overall company problem. You know, I'm not sure if that's totally fair. Still a huge, stupid mistake to make. They should have everybody in the studio turn off Twitter for the month after launch for all of these games. But if we're going to be consistent, I don't think you can point to like a Concord dev while ignoring the Black Myth Wukong dev, right? But having said that, there's a lot of people that worked on this for a long time and put a lot of heart and soul into it and were really hoping it was going to be great, and it just wasn't. And it flopped catastrophically. They said Ellis was the main shot caller on Concord, which failed miserably from the moment it hit the market last month. It was only this summer that the game received a proper trailer, with many balking at the price tag attached to what would have fared much better as a free-to-play shooter. And I think, you know, there's a lot of people that have said, I don't think it's fair to say the price tag is what hurt Concord. And I think it was more about quality offerings, or other people say, no, it was more about the character designs or the the wokeism, whatever. But I think that it was an albatross around its neck, and I just don't know how you can shake it, because the overshadowing thing for Concord was that it was $40 when all of its peers are free to play. Concord is a premium product, quote unquote, but Overwatch, free to play. They got Valorant, free to play. You point to CS:GO, whatever. Like, no matter what you're pointing at, its direct competitors are coming in at free to play. So already that is a huge weight around its neck that is constantly informing people's decisions and thoughts of it. When they did a free to play open beta, they had more players than the closed beta, but barely any. I think they had 2,400 players during the paid beta in the first week. And then the next week they did an open beta and they got to 3,000. So they added like 600 people. And they didn't add anybody of substance, like no big groups of people, because everybody was like, even if I play it and like it, I'm just going to be convincing myself to spend more money on a game that I currently think feels pretty generic. So nobody really cared that much. And then it started to be framed as an embarrassment, as a failure. And as I've said before, it wasn't just Concord as a game that informed the discourse around it. And people could say this is unfair. And I think to a certain extent it is unfair. But I think that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. Part of the reason gamers were so jubilant over Concord's failure is because of what Concord represented. A lot of gamers, especially PlayStation gamers right now, feel as though Bethesda has totally lost sight of and perspective on what their fans want, which are like single player adventure games with really high production values and compelling stories. That's what they built the PS4 generation around. And they've done almost nothing with that concept for the last 4 years through the PS5 generation. Instead, we've got an ocean of remakes and remasters and live service things. And it's just been really, really disappointing for a lot of people. And so to see Concord, this game, which represented a huge financial investment for Sony and which was so corporate and just kind of soulless and a game by checklist and board of directors, it just did not feel at all like the PlayStation of even 5 years ago. And so its failure felt as though it was a referendum on the current state of Jim Ryan's version of PlayStation. And I think that's why people were so passionate, let's say, and forceful in their dismissal of the game. Does Concord have decent shooting mechanics? Sure. They're former Destiny devs. You would kind of expect that. But I think because of what it represented to so many people, that was almost a secondary issue. And then there's the other culture war side of things where, yeah, the character designs were god awful and just uninteresting. And the whole premise of like the story being a big selling point for people when it was like a 60-second cutscene with characters saying stuff nobody understood because they just assumed you already knew about the characters. It was just really, really weird, and it just didn't work. And despite the high production value, it wasn't particularly fun. It wasn't that compelling to begin with as an idea because it had been done so many times before, and the price point weighed it down. I think launching it free to play now, you might get some curious people who download it just to see if it was that bad. But I think you'll have people that play it for an afternoon and go, yeah, it's not the worst thing I've ever played, but never touch it again. I just don't think it was a game people ever wanted. So I don't think going free to play magically fixes anything. But who knows, at this point, Sony might just be looking at it and saying, if we can get anything out of it, it'll be a W. Because we are so in the hole with this game. We just need something. But I don't think this is going to magically start taking down Overwatch. I can't think of a game that starts out with this horrible of press at the outset, other than like No Man's Sky, that eventually makes a comeback. And even that, like the difference between No Man's Sky and this, people loved the idea of No Man's Sky. That's part of why people were so disappointed, is because they loved the idea, the concept, the pitch. Nobody liked the pitch of Concord. Nobody thought it was a good idea. So I just don't see the potential for a comeback. I think that this just fizzles out again. But it does look like they are prepping for another launch. And in their last statement, when they shut it down and pulled it from all the platforms and refunded everybody. They didn't say they were canceling it or, yeet us, delete us, the whole thing. They were going to kind of reevaluate options, which a lot of us interpreted as they're going to try to relaunch it, which maybe they find some success. I cannot fathom a world in which people are like, you know what? I was wrong about Concord. I'm going to go back and play it a bunch and watch those kick-ass cutscenes. I just don't see that happening. It's sad, yes, that so many people that worked on it so hard for so long saw their work roundly mocked and dismissed out of hand. But it doesn't change the fact that as a product, it was a product nobody asked for, that wasn't particularly good, and management should never have greenlit it to begin with. They never should have let those people spend so much time working on it. And that's why at the end of the day, like this debacle, I can respect the director stepping down for being the head of the ship when it crashed, but and kind of going down with the ship. I get it. But this frankly never should have been released, in my opinion. I just think it was never going to find success. They're going to try again. Looks like. I think they're going to try again. Free to play, whatever, but we'll see. I swear to God, can you imagine if they do like, yeah, we're relaunching it at 20 and it'll be on PlayStation Plus. Dude, if they do that, part of me kind of expects them to do that. Part of me kind of expects them to do something still kind of out of touch. Wouldn't that be so funny? What's the over under on that? What do you guys think the odds are? Let's do a poll. Let's see if straw poll is up and working. It wasn't working the other day. Do you think Sony launches Concord again as, and then let's do free to play, or 20 but on PS Plus? I kind of want to know what you think, because my gut is just telling me they're going to do something really stupid. But then again, I also thought they were going to do something really stupid during their like press or their state of play. You all have a lot of confidence in them. I mean, there is no way this works. There is no way $20 but like free to play or PlayStation Plus works. There's no way $10 works. $5 just wouldn't even make sense. But even free to play, I don't see that really working out for them. But at least there's maybe a non-zero chance. But I swear to God, if they do something like that, it would be so funny. Oh man. A quarter of you guys are saying you think they still try to charge for it. That would be pretty funny. That would be pretty damn funny. He took my thing.